Look, it's okay. We have some more confident rules ready to drop some gems for y'all. I hope y'all ready. Get y'all notebooks out. Get everything you need to get the game that you need. You understand? Hey, here you go, brother. Talk to me. Oh yeah. So look, we took a nice little break. We got some lunch. Now. You feel me? So look, without further ado, let's bring up the speakers, all right? So look, our first bank. Our next speaker we got is Quentin Durr. He's the Vice President of Regional Business.
Hello? Okay.
How's everybody doing? Come on. Hello.
Think you're off. Let's see. Try now.
Hello.
There we go.
All right, here we go. How's everybody doing?
Good.
All right, everybody excited to be here? Good deal. So my name is Quentin Durr. I'm with Origin Bank, also president of Louisiana Catalyst, which is an accelerator incubator program here in Monroe, Louisiana, but we cover all of northeast Louisiana, so Ruston, Bastrop, Farmville, and of course here in Monroe. So we have a location at the Benoit Rec Center over there, 1700 Oak Lawn. So if you have questions, have needs, of course, we work with a partnership with the LSBDC as well to help you grow your business. So come see us. Any questions, feel free. And also during this, very open dialogue. So if you have questions, feel free to ask.
Cool. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Bruce Ruston. I'm from Ruston, and I'm a graduate, like they said, of Louisiana Tech. I went to Origin right after I graduated in finance from Louisiana Tech. I worked in our commercial underwriting group. I did that for about 3.5 years. Taught me a lot about understanding businesses, cash flow, credit, and so really how banks loan money to business and get repaid back. And then after working our underwriting group, I went to work on the production side of things as a commercial portfolio manager. I did that for 2 years, and then I've been a commercial relationship banker ever since. So. That tells a little bit about me out at the bank. Outside of the bank, I'm president of Lincoln Rotary, which is an organization and nonprofit in Lincoln Parish. Also, I'm a member of Teach One to Lead One, and then I also serve in some capacities with United Way. So, cool. Well, like I said, today we're going to talk about banking and funding. And so I'll kind of start out here, kind of overview as far as, we're talking about banking and funding. First, I would say when you're talking about business, right, and getting started in a business, you want to be passionate about that business you're getting into, whether it's a service business and you're offering a service to people, or it's a product you're going to be either creating or a product you're going to have manufactured, but you need to be passionate about it. Because you're going to go through times where it's going to be tough, you're going to want to quit, and without that passion or having that gift, you may end up throwing your hands up. But I think with the passion, you'll always be able to push through. So when you start, as far as getting started, number one thing, get a business plan. In that business plan and creating that business, first thing you want to think through is what is going to be the competitive advantage for my business, right? That competitive advantage is going to allow you to compete in the marketplace, beat the competition, have long-term success, and not just be here for a short period of time. Because we see business every day where they're here one day, gone the other. And I think ultimately you got to have that competitive advantage of what your business is going to do to keep you there. in that competitive advantage, I think the number one thing you have is being able to exceed customers' expectations, right? If you exceed your customer expectation, why would you even go out of business? You're gonna have so many customers coming to you, people talking about your business and wanting to do business with you, that the demand will always be there. So if you can focus on exceeding customer expectation. The next I will talk about culture. And that's one thing we talk a lot about at Origin Bank, is the culture. And what really drives your organization, have everybody rowing in the same direction, and that's going to be the things, again, that get you through the tough times. When you want to add anything about culture?
Yeah, I'll throw in on that. So culture is obviously a big driver for Origin Bank. To give an example, we have a very entrepreneurial spirit. So there's been a lot of times I've wanted to do things like this event that the bank has supported full steam, no questions, because we know that small business is the lifeline and the blood of the economy, right? So when you talk about culture, you think about relationships, and that's what our tagline is, return on relationships. So we're invested in our clients. We go to their places, we're with them at their events, we talk to them, we visit with them, we know what's going on, but that culture part of it is having that deep relationship, and that extends out past the client. So also even internally, the way that we work together, we treat every department as their client or a customer, right? So if we have someone in loan admin that, loan administration, short, sorry, using some of my short talk, but let's say somebody has a need, some documentation I did not provide, then my respect to them is going to be the utmost like their client because they have a need, and vice versa. So we preach that and we practice that at Origin. It's not just a slogan, or I wouldn't have been there for 14 years and I've never been to any other bank, even though I have been approached and asked to go different places. But when you're happy and you see somebody allowing you to thrive and they believe in you, that's part of that culture as well. So you want that in your business because that is buy-in, and when they treat that business like it's theirs, that's when you really see the results.
Great points. The next part of that competitive advantage, speed and responsiveness. And I think, especially in any business, but in the banking business, you want speed, right? If a business owner comes to us for a business request, they don't want to know they're approved and the loan's funded 2 months from now. They need to know in a week or 2 weeks in advance, or they could possibly look at missing that opportunity. So speed and response, and then we do this too as our competitors by creating simplicity. How can we make it as simple as possible, right? We're going to get the details of the deal, we're going to understand it from day one, and we're going to make sure we know what's needed and what we're supposed to do. And so we're not going to go back and forth with the customer and drag out time there. So that's a part of our competitive advantage. And I think any business, you got to have speed and be responsiveness. People aren't waiting on products. They need products now, And so I know COVID has interrupted that supply chain, but still, that opens opportunity for business if you can be responsive there. And then the last one is people. I think in any organization, the people are part of that organization is the competitive advantage, right? When you look at the best of the best, it all boils down to the best people and how they row it, like I said, row it in the same direction, part of that culture. And so, again, I almost look at it really, if you're looking at a balance sheet, people should be an intangible on the balance sheet. And some people are going to have more value there. Some companies are going to have more value in that intangible than others. And the ones who have the best people are going to create the most value. So,
yeah, and I'll add to that. One of the things we're seeing in trends in the workforce is that great fight for people. So you're going to see a lot of flight of people leaving companies, going to other, and companies really finding out ways to make it more beneficial for you to come work for them, benefits. It's really switched the whole workforce over the last few years from where the company had the ability and the leverage to kind of dictate what the schedule was and the expectations, right? You think about Black Friday. They started opening up on Thanksgiving, right? Now you see that shift came back, and the people have a voice now where it's like, we don't want to work those hours, right? That's not good for family and other things. So you see that shift starting to happen where companies now are rolling out wellness programs or extended vacation days or extended PTO time to give you time with family and focus on health. So you're starting to see that, so I'd encourage anybody with the business, think about your employees as family versus just another, line item expense.
Next thing, part of a business plan. After you found your competitive advantage, and then those subs that go under the competitive advantage, but what next is you have to have a strategy and you got to execute. If you don't do those things, that could lead to failure or not being as successful as you thought. Having that strategy early on, having a backup plan, if things don't go as you expected it, and then really execute and get started at the end of the day. You have to get started. You can't just talk about it, but you have to execute on that strategy and when you put the pen to paper on the strategy, now go execute on it. And then the next would be market analysis of your business plan. You have to understand your market, right? If you're in competition with somebody else in that market, you need to know what they're offering and how you're going to be able to, out-compete them, be better than them. At the end of the day, it's a competition. You have to win, and so if not, your business is on the line. So understand who your competitors are, meaning the demographics of that market, also geographics of that market. And for example, I would say is, in North Louisiana, you're probably not going to open a brick and mortar selling snowboards. There's no snow here. So anyway, understanding your market and knowing where you're headed to there.
Yeah, so y'all are probably wondering, okay, y'all are boring us with business talk, a business plan, but what does that have to do with financing, right? That is exact. So this is what it has to do with each other, okay? These are the questions we're going to ask to determine the risk that you even know what you're doing before you step into this, because that's our job, is to mitigate that risk, right? Not only for ourselves, but for you, because we look at every deal as an investment. So we want to make sure you're protected as well as we are, that you understand the ins and outs of your business, so you don't have that rainy day that you come to us 6 months and go, I didn't think about this, right? So we try to help you mitigate all that risk. That's an important piece of the underwriting, to understand and have the confidence in the people that's running that company before we lend out essentially other people's money to them. Next,
funding and financials, right? You getting started with that business, you got a business plan, right? Let's go start putting projections together. How are these numbers going to work? How much money am I going to make I'm thinking I'm going to make the first day, and then also, what am I thinking I'm going to make a month later, and then 12 months later? These are the questions we're going to ask you if you're saying, hey, I'm starting a new business, and you're saying whether, hopefully you're not coming to us for a loan just yet, but put some pen to paper. What are your expectations there as far as on the revenue side, but then also putting some expense control there. How much money is going to be leaving the account every day? Because ultimately, I don't care how much money you make, but if you're spending more than you make, you're not making money. And then, as I said there, focus on profitability. At the end of the day, I don't care what the revenue is, you got to focus on the bottom line number, the net income number, and that's the money that's going to be in your pocket once when the day's done. So focus on profitability, watch the pennies, and the bigger numbers kind of just happen, but watch the pennies.
Yeah, and elaborate on the cash flow part. So the importance of that, I've seen a lot of profitable companies go broke, because if you do not manage your ins and out, you can find yourself with a lot of A&R, right, accounts receivable, sitting out there. You could have $1 million waiting. But if you don't have $1 in the bank to pay those expenses for the next job or pay your notes, you could lose everything. And then depending on your industry, which is why the importance of the business plan, to know how your vendors are going to pay. Are they going to pay 30, 60, 90 days out, so that you can understand that cash flow part to have the necessary liquidity up front, or the cash position up front, to cover those expenses while you wait on the revenue to come in. So that's the importance of tie-in between cash flow, financial, and the business plan, how they all work together. And ultimately for us to look at it and decide, okay, we can loan this person money because we understand they can afford that monthly note.
Great point talking about capital. Funding, right? So do your homework there. How much money am I going to need to start this business? I would say, we look at companies every day who come to us and say, hey, we need a loan, and they're just starting the business. We would both say and agree there, you're probably taking a wrong step. If first person you coming to me is for a loan, you're just starting a business, right? Go do some research. See if you can start the business without coming to us for a loan, and then understand too how much upfront capital I'm going to need, how much in working capital, and by understanding that part, you'll kind of start understanding cash flow too, by saying how much money is going to be going out of the bank, and then making a making a backup plan if the revenue doesn't come, because you know how much is going to be going out of the bank, but if the revenue doesn't come, you need to have a backup plan of how much liquidity I need in the bank. And so at the end of the day, if you're hiring people, you got to pay payroll. Those people expect to go home with a paycheck, at the end of the week or every 2 weeks, they need a paycheck. And so understanding how much upfront capital I'm going to need is very key in starting a business.
All right, so we kind of dove into the business section. Any questions so far? Don't be shy. Now's the time. Any question? I see like somebody wants to ask a question. Yes, over here.
What should I keep financial statements on? Like, what am I providing you guys with, and how can I provide you with that?
Yeah, QuickBooks to start the business, definitely. QuickBooks, or if you're even earlier stages, even Excel would be great. But QuickBooks ultimately would be the answer until you got somebody helping you, like a bookkeeper. But QuickBooks would be your answer there. And that's what we're going to ask during the middle of the year. If you come to us, it's June 30th, and middle of the year, tax returns aren't done, we're going to ask for a P&L and a balance sheet from QuickBooks. Okay.
So whenever somebody applies for a business loan, what kind of things do you look into? Is it just your income, or is it, what kind of financials do you need to have in order?
Great question. So when you come to us for a business loan, we're going to ask you about a business plan, and then we're going to say, hey, can you fill out this personal financial statement? And so what that tells us is your personal net worth outside of the business. How much cash do you have? How much, if you have marketable securities, how much is your home worth? How much do you owe on your home? Do you have any other real estate where there's value there, and then how much you owe on that real estate? So basically it's your assets minus your personal liabilities give us your net worth. And ultimately it needs to be higher, it needs to be higher than zero. And so we'll ask for that, and also your last 2 years personal tax returns.
Do you take into account business expenses and how that's going to offset whatever your personal income is, or what it costs to put into it?
Getting business, yeah.
Well, I'd throw in on this. So a lot of time the way we underwrite, and different banks underwrite different, but we do from a global standpoint. So we look at your business and your personal together with your financial, so that we account for the business but also your personal, so there's not that confusion, right? Well, these expenses really don't hit my personal, or vice versa, which is why we always encourage people too to understand their debt load and how they have it structured. Is it a business expense? Have it on the business. If it's personal, have it on the personal, so you don't have business debt listed on your personal credit that's affecting you trying to get a car, or if you're going to the bank trying to get a business loan, and that muddies that water. So I always try to keep them separate, but we do look at the entire picture to understand your whole financial situation.
Cool. Are there any favorable terms for students who are still in college or just graduated with a degree?
I think that would be better for you.
So there's nothing special that jumps out of there. As far as from a student or something like that. So we look at every deal different, depending on if it's consumer or business. So I'll throw in this, when you're doing consumer lending, that is highly regulated. So for our rate sheet, it's fixed, and wherever your credit score lands, that's the rate you get. So we have no issues of showing favoritism, or that's my good buddy Bruce, I got to give him a good rate. So that's on the consumer side. But from a business side, which is one I want to focus on since that's what this topic is, that's all going to depend on your situation, right? Your credit, your cash flow. Do you have a job, right? I've had some people come in, sit down, and go, I want to start a photography business. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you do? Well, I don't do nothing. That's what I want to do. I'm like, so you want to borrow money to buy the camera and hope that you get the job to pay the money back. That's not going to work. You have to have existing revenue to pay that loan back. So then we're going to look at the collateral. Are you buying something that we can take a mortgage on? Because then that's going to affect how much you may need in a down payment. So these things can get real hairy. So the way that I kind of advise is take your request, have all that information, have that personal relationship with your banker that you can sit down. If you don't have one, I encourage you to have one now. Don't wait till you need it. There's been many a times I've had businesses drowning and wait till the moment they're underwater to come, where if they would have came to me when it was belly button deep, we could have got out of it. So timing is huge, and having that relationship is huge. So nothing necessarily for students, but we look at every loan the same, depending on that situation. There are some programs, and I'll get in that in a little bit, that can help for some new situations, but I'll touch on that at the end.
And we do have free college checking and student checking, so free checking accounts.
Say for instance, if you have a business, but you have an idea and you want to start something new, so how will you go about getting funding for that specific project? For that specific project.
It's a totally new business than what you're currently doing business in?
No, it'd be the same business, but a totally different project, like a new program, like an app or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So I would too go back to that business plan to start. Also go ahead and look at projections, putting some financials together on that of what you're expecting, that business will generate. And then also I would say if you could try to fund that out of pocket, first coming to us for a loan. And then once that business has proven cash flow and you know what kind of cash flow it's doing, then, okay, I want to grow or expand that business line, then possibly come to us and say, hey, could y'all help me out to even expand this even farther? This business has done X, and I know if I get a little bit more capital behind it, I can take it to Z.
Well, I'll expand. So that's assuming that the new project has a greater expense than your current cash flow. So like if you had existing business you want to add on and your existing business could afford,
that's true.
So that's a little different, right? So we can use your existing, so if JiggAerobics says, you know what, this is the angle we want to go, and we want to branch out and we want to start streaming online, but we have to buy this other stuff. If your cash flow from your existing business will cover that, then that's one of those check marks on that box, right? So my cash flow is there. So now we need to look at credit, we need to look at collateral, and see how to structure that deal. Is it a 3-year or 5-year, and kind of make a plan fit for you. So it just depends on how much the request is, and is it in line. If you were doing workout and you're telling me you're going to open up a ice cream shop,
I can't help
I'm a question, unless you're using that to send them on over to JiggAerobics, right? But how does that, is it outside your lane or is it in focus what you're doing? So that's something we look at as well.
And then basically, like Quinn was saying, going back to that global cash flow, right? Putting all your income in, personal business that you're currently doing, also with all your current business debt, personal debt, and then adding that new debt to your global cash flow and saying, hey, he's got sufficient income to pay for this.
And what are some red flags, like some definite red flags, when someone's coming there, approaching their one funding, they have a good credit score, but they're like, what are some definite red flags? Like yes or no?
I would say asking us to fund 100% of their vision. Like if they need to be able to, if they want me to put 80%, they can at least do 20% of that. But we have people all the time come to us and say, hey, I got this great idea, I know it's going to work, and they want 100% financing. You got to put something in too, If we can't have everything to lose on this, so if you put 20%, now we're in partnership together, right? That's basically.
Yeah, and other red flags are simple ones like, is it outside your knowledge base, right? If you're in workout and you're telling me you want to go buy airplanes, I'm going to question that. That don't sound right, right? Unless you went to school and I didn't know. So I'd probe you to find out what background you had to understand if that was something, a passion you had. But red flags like that, we've seen some different things, but it's always understand like the request and that it makes sense. So we've seen things where people have down payment issues and they want 100% or they don't want to give you any financials.
Yeah.
That's a big risk,
one.
right? Like if you're not willing to tell me your financial, but you want me to trust you, give you money. So where's that relationship lie? That's a one-way street at that point. So that's another red flag.
Yeah. And I would say just hesitant to ask questions or answer questions, right? If we ask some questions and you're kind of going around and beating around the bush and we can't get true answers, we're going to be a little hesitant. So they're kind of giveaways. You know, once you see it once or twice, you're kind of like, I don't know. And just understanding industries, right, too. Like, when trying to go in oil and gas and think you're going to make all this money, when just say now oil and gas prices are up, but previously they were very low, and it's like companies are going bankrupt from oil and gas. Why would you go into it now? So understand that industry and what that market is and where we're at. So,
Any other questions on that topic? All right, so I'll touch on a few things about the program. So there are a few things out that can help you with your business. One is the Small Business Boost program that the Federal Home Loan Bank in Dallas has. So essentially it used to be a grant process, and they learned that they turned to a loan guarantee program that repayment would allow them to replenish their fund. So what that allows you to do is up to $100,000 separate loan to help offset a down payment. And it does not require a personal guarantee or any collateral. So let's say you are an existing business and you decide you're going to try to buy your office. Your cash flow is there, but you don't have your down payment. Credit, everything's there but the collateral piece, and you don't have that down payment. You know, you could use this program. Let's say the office is $100,000, okay? 80, the bank says, I'll do 80, you gotta come up with 20, and you don't have 20,000. You could borrow 20 with this program to help offset that down payment. So essentially you get 100% financing. And the favorable terms on it, there's no payment for a year, then there's interest only for the next year, and then you have principal and interest on the third. So it allows your cash flow to kind of build up. And then that coincides with the first loan with the bank, so both of them would be on a 15-year amortization, so you'd have a smaller payment. It's not like if it's a very short-term payback. So that allows you to get into a business, and all you have to do is basically it has to be associated with one employee per 50,000. You know, so if you're going to borrow 20, you just need one employee that this would help. Getting that office would create one job, then you could do that. And all the bank has to do is approve it on their end, and the FLAB will actually approve it based on our underwriting, not their own separate. So it's a really great program. We've seen a couple of restaurants use it for expansion, and it's a great way just to tap into, even if you had the cash and you needed it for, I'm going to buy this existing business and I need that working capital and I don't want to use my capital. You could use this program and then save your cash for the actual working capital part of the deal. Another one, LED, Louisiana Economic Development, has a guarantee program. It's much like the SBA guarantee program, but it's a lot less paperwork. And I've had a deal one time. I had a lawn service business. They wanted to expand and buy an existing lawn service in their area, but the collateral was weed eaters and lawnmowers, right? Not really favorable collateral. And so we were able to use that guarantee program to secure 90% of the loan, and then they had 10% equity in the deal, and we were able to find that over, finance that over, I think, a 7-year deal. So they were acquire them. It basically doubled, tripled their revenue, and that's what launched them into now full scale. So that program is pretty neat, depending on your situation. That's why it's important to have that relationship with that banker, which I'm going to keep going back to, understand what programs in your situation to align you with. Because if I don't know all your details, I can't tell you about that program, because I'm not going to solicit all programs to everybody, right? So it's relationship-based, knowing what you need, and then tying that with your need.
Quentin, is there a lot of paperwork to go with that?
LED is about a 7-page, not much, so it's fairly easy.
They have a lot of programs available too. I mean, not just financing, but to help you get business ready.
Yeah, LED, I would encourage everybody to go look. They have different programs, also tax incentives. So depending on what industry you are, Louisiana tries to incentivize you to do things. So if you're hiring in certain areas, there's opportunity zone, and there's also enterprise tax structure to help you with your taxes. But then also they have different bonding programs. So let's say you wanted to get into state work, but you didn't want, you needed help with $1 million bond to get that deal. They have a program, they would actually underwrite that bond for you. So there's a lot of benefits there as well. Anything
You want to talk
on that?
Huh? You want to talk a little bit about, just getting started with banking relationship or anything?
Yeah, we'll round out and then take more questions. I would just encourage everybody, if you do not have a bank, You really need to have a strong relationship with a bank. I've seen too many times people go under because they didn't have a bank, they were scared of the bank. You should not, if you go into a bank and you do not feel comfortable, you might want to question, are you going to the right bank? Right? I mean, it really should not be a place that you feel insecure or uncomfortable at. They should welcome you and treat you like you're just a client as important as the next. And so, you know, we used to have a tagline, treat every customer like the only customer every time. And so that's always been stuck in my mind of treating everybody the same, because, I mean, you don't judge a book by its cover, you know, and so you're here to help people. So I'd encourage you to build that relationship, let your business, you know, be open and transparent with your banker, and also provide that financial information so that when you do have a need, the response time will be in a week versus waiting weeks, you know, so that would be my advice. And come see Bruce. Come see Bruce.
Yeah, so my email address is brushing@origin.bank. I'll give you my mobile, which is 318-243-2699. And then my direct line is 318-254-7428. Those who are familiar with Ruston, I'm located in our Ruston office right across from Super One. And then I'll let Quentin give his information.
Y'all let me know when y'all ready. I see everybody typing away, so I want to make sure. All right, so QDURR, D-U-R-R, @origin.bank. And then my cell phone number is 318-243-9050. You can call or text or email. If I do not answer, please leave a message or send a text message, because I might be doing something like this, so you never know. All right, so before we wrap up, any more questions? I mean, if y'all got any specific to your industry, or if you're getting pushed back by your current bank, I'd love to shed some light on that as well.
We're just here to help at the end of the day. I think, especially at Origin, you know, it's a partnership, and really once you become a customer, we're here to help you, whether that's through connections, giving financial advice, just here to help your business grow and flourish, because it's truly a partnership. If we lend you money, we're relying on you to pay us back. So we only want the best for that customer. So.
Say a few words about LSBDC before we do next.
Okay, no, that's perfect. All right, well, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all again, and we'll turn it over to Taylor. And also, y'all, the SBDC here is on ULM campus, so y'all might want to listen to her because she is great help.
That was really informative. I was going to say just a couple of things before we move on. And that's it. Everything that they just talked about as far as business planning, getting financially ready,